Hi friends! Welcome to my first ever demo video. So on Wednesdays from noon to 1 now, I am going to be sharing and giving ideas on how to use some of the products here in my store. So for the very first one, we're going to do an intro to stamping. Most of you, I'm sure, feel very confident with your stamping skills, or maybe you don't, but I'm just going to share some information with you. So most people are familiar with wood mount stamps, look like this, and then you have the stamp on the back, okay? However, most companies actually don't produce those anymore, weirdly enough. They actually make clear stamps, which is what these are. In the package, you oftentimes will have words and images that work nicely together. So I'm gonna show you how those work, because I feel like sometimes people buy them, they think they're stickers, or they get confused on what they really entail or what all you can do with those. So here we go. So in this package, I'm just going to start with some of the stamps I already own here. Basically you open up the package here, and you have all these little images, and you actually just peel it off of the block of the plastic here, and you stick it onto the block. Now this is not a sticky that's going to wear off over time. It's clear. It's a cling style, which means as long as it's clean, it will stick onto your acrylic block. Okay, much like that. Then you're going to grab a piece of paper here. I'm going to grab my craft mat so that my space stays nice and clean here. So you have your little stamp that you stuck onto your acrylic block. You can see through the block, so you can actually line up and stamp where you want to stamp. When you ink up your stamp, most people, they go like this and they try to stamp into the ink pad, but what if your stamp is really big and you are not really feeling confident with how to ink that up? So what you do is, in the stamp world, art world, most ink pads are raised up like this. See how the ink pad is coming away from the plastic here? So that you can actually tap on the ink, and then you can actually see when your image is fully inked. That way you don't accidentally over ink it, or you don't accidentally get ink all over the place. Then because you can see exactly where you're stamping, you can actually stamp straight, hold it in place, and just do even pressure across the whole block, lift away, and your image turns out perfect every time. So I get so many people that make these, and then they get that black edge all the way around from their stamp block, from the edge of their block stamp. So this is a great way to prevent that from happening. You literally are just tapping on the ink. Then when you're done stamping, you just peel that off, and that goes in the package, and then you can pick out another stamp. What's really cool about these is that you can, as long as they're clean, you can use them again and again and again. You can also make impressions into polymer clay if you have like a little bit of like a cornstarch or something kind of in between, or a little bit of mica powder. And that way you can press into polymer clay and do a release. So your stamps can really be used for a variety of different things. What I also love about these is if you have a word that says "Have a happy summer," you can also take it on your acrylic block and you can actually wrap it like so, and then it actually stays in place. And so then you can actually line this up, and you can actually stamp it wherever you would like, and kind of retains that cool shape. So that's also another really cool way to use your acrylic stamps. I'm just going to wrap this a little bit better. I want it to be a little bit more even and picky with that. Okay, so then you can again ink it up. It stays in place exactly where you've arranged that, and then you can just stamp right down. Isn't that cool? So that is a quick little intro to stamping with clear stamps. All right, now we'll go on to some of the other fun stuff. So this ink that I'm using, because people ask this question too, this is the Versafine Claire Ink. This ink is my most favorite ink. One, it looks like you've printed. It doesn't look like it's like PC, or like, it doesn't really look like you've stamped it. It looks like you printed it out. The colors are that intense and true. The other thing I like about this is that when this ink is dry, it's actually totally waterproof. So you could actually do watercolors or markers, and your lines will never move or bleed out or anything like that. So this is definitely my most favorite ink for doing stamping. Okay, so now we're gonna move on. So now there's so much you can do in the world of stamps. So I'm also going to show you really quick, because I told you about the acrylic block here. You can also use, this is called a stamp platform, and what's cool about this is that you can actually arrange all of your stamps in a little scene. And usually what I do is I have my paper in place. There's magnets that come with this, but I actually personally prefer washi tape for holding my paper in place, weirdly enough. Then you can actually stick your little images down, and you can create a whole little scene by just kind of figuring out where you want these to go. My stamps are kind of dirty, which is why you can actually see the image through. Normally you wouldn't be able to see the image until after you've inked it, but my stamps are dirty. Okay, so then once you lay that on there and you're happy with how it looks, then you take the platform, pull that down, then you lift it up and all of the stamps come up. Then you just take your ink pad like you were just doing. What's cool about this is that you can use different colors of ink if you wanted to. So let's say I wanted to do red for my little unicorn, and let's say I wanted to do blue for the words. So you actually have control over where exactly you put your ink, which is also really neat. And then again, you can stamp down. What's awesome about the platform is, let's say you misstamp, let's say something didn't stamp perfectly, all you have to do is ink it up again, and then just stamp down, and it will land in the exact same spot. Oh, I think I'm gonna give this unicorn some purple hair, and a purple tail, and apparently a purple nose. Oh, how fun is that? So again, your stamp has landed in the same spot, but here I was actually able to do a duo color, which is also really fun and super cool. So a stamp platform, which is a stamp on a hinge like this, really works great for doing things like that. So again, once you're done with your stamp, you just pull those off of the package, or pull them off of the block, and then go back into the package. So they can be used for so many different things, so they're pretty fun. All right, so that is the world of clear stamps and stamping ink. Okay, so now I get to show you my favorite, some of my most favorite things, the fun stuff. So when I first started working in this industry, I fell in love with heat embossing. And if you guys don't know what that is, you're in for a treat, because it is so, so, so cool. So what I'm gonna do here is so the idea with heat embossing is that there is a clear ink pad, which is what this is, and then you have your embossing powder, okay? So those are the things that you're gonna need. An ink pad that holds embossing powder and the embossing powder, okay? So in this case, I'm gonna use my clear ink. I know this doesn't look clear because it's gotten dirty over time, but it's clear. We're gonna call that clear. Clear ink, and I'm gonna use some colored powder here. I'm gonna use gold. I'm gonna use some gold embossing powder. So I'm gonna actually work in a little tray here that I've kind of made and created specifically for this purpose. Because embossing powder is kind of like glitter. It's kind of like glitter, except that it is really, really, really fine. And so because of that, it kind of gets all over the place. Hold on just a second. I'm gonna go plug in my in my heat gun so I can show you the process, because it's pretty cool. I'm realizing now that my plugging is not close enough. I'm hoping this will be close enough. I think that it will be. Okay. So what we're gonna do here is I'm gonna work in this tray. Well, I'm gonna stamp my image and then I'm gonna work in that tray. Okay, so you're gonna find the image that you want to stamp. I think I'm gonna go ahead and just stamp this fun little house image here. So I'm just gonna apply my clear ink. Now the ink just needs to be wet enough to hold embossing powder in place. So chances are the ink is probably not super clear anymore. So you're probably gonna see a light little impression of this. Oh, yep, small little, very light impression here. Now I'm gonna go to my little box here. I'm gonna lay down the embossing powder. So what you're gonna do is you're sprinkling embossing powder across the entire image. Shake off your excess and put it back in the container, much like you would with glitter, okay? So now you have your image here, and it has powder in place of where you've stamped it, okay? So I don't know if you guys can see this. So there's powder all over. This is powder right now, and it's kind of beige color. It almost looks like sand. It does not look gold, even though this is gold embossing powder. So now we're gonna heat set. Hopefully you guys can see this. So this is a heat gun. It's going to melt the resin, and the resin melts at 450 degrees. You do need a heat gun for this process. Over the years, I've had many people ask if you can use a hairdryer, and you cannot. You must use a heat gun for melting the powdered resin. All right, so what you're gonna do is you just turn it on, you hold it in place until the powder melts, and then you slowly move it across until all of the powder is melted. And hopefully I can get the light on this so you guys can see the effect. It is really, really cool. You see how it's starting to change there? So it becomes kind of a darker kind of gold, and I'm going all the way around. Ooh, a little too close to my fingers there. And we're just melting in the shape of that stamp. what's really cool about embossing powder, this is called heat embossing for those of you that don't know. What's really cool about embossing powder is that once it's on your paper, it's then totally waterproof. So it's not going to go anywhere, even if you take a little bit of watercolor over it. Do you see how that's catching the light and giving that gold? Oh, so beautiful. So embossing powder is really, really fun. So you get that cool shape of your stamp, but it's in this really beautiful color, which I just love. So you can also do watercolors in here. What's neat about embossing powder is that it's a little bit raised up. So as you run your hand across here, it's raised, which I know you guys can't feel that, but it's very, very cool. But you can, when you do watercolors, because the lines are raised up a little bit, it actually holds the watercolor in place that doesn't want to just go over the edge and go into the rest of your drawing. So you can actually color the little windows blue, and the blue paint will actually stay in the little window area there, which is really, really neat. So that is the world of heat embossing. But of course, we can't stop there. There's so much more. So that clear ink I was telling you about, well, guess what? It comes in pen form, and then your writing can then be heat embossed, which is super, super fun. So now we're gonna do a different color. I'm gonna do moonstone color here. So then you have your, well, this pen is a little bit of help. But anyways, we have my word here. It says, hi friends. I'm realizing now that my pen needs to be, I need to grab a new Versafine pen because it's not as saturated as it used to be. But there you can see your handwriting can then be embossed, which is pretty fun. The first time I ever made this for Taylor, he was like, is this your handwriting? And I was like, yes, it is. I was so excited. So that's really fun too. And there's also this amazing world of doing multicolor embossing. And multicolor embossing, what that is, so I'm putting up my tray over here. Multicolor embossing is where you use actually different colors of embossing powder on the same image. All right, so I'm going to show you what that's about. So I'm actually going to show you on black paper because you can also do heat embossing on black paper, and especially with these really beautiful metallic colors, you can create some really gorgeous effects. So we are going to do that. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to stamp my little house out again. I'm going to use my clear ink. And lay that down. My favorite embossing powder to do on black paper is actually the white embossing powder because it is so beautiful and rich and really bright on the black paper. I'm making sure there's no other embossing powder color in my tray here because I really don't want to contaminate my white embossing powder. I want to stay bright white and not turn like salt and pepper embossing powder, for example. Oh, isn't that so beautiful? Oh my gosh, I just love that. And then as we do our heat setting here, oh, I was gonna do multicolored embossing. Oh, I'll get there. I'll get there in a minute. I wanted to show you the white embossing powder. I was going to do the white embossing just on the cloud, but I got distracted and just did it over the whole thing. And look how bright that is. I mean, it is like a true white on top of a black paper. So often when we do white stamp ink on black paper, it's not nearly as vibrant as this. So white embossing powder is definitely the best way to go if you're wanting that really beautiful bright on black. So I definitely recommend that for that really bright, intense color. Okay, I wanted to show you multicolor embossing. All right, so I'm not going to do all of the colors, Ellie. Don't do all the colors. Or don't do the whole thing, the whole image. All right, so I'm gonna show you how to do multicolor embossing. So we're gonna go ahead and stick this down. Now, you can kind of see part of my image here a little bit. So I'm gonna put a little bit of the white embossing powder just on the cloud. Then I'm going to shake it off in the direction that I want it to cover the rest of my image. Now, if I shake it off this way, it's gonna cover the rest of my house. If I shake it off this way, it's only gonna go on the cloud and everything kind of below that. Okay, you see what I've done there? So the rest of this is still wet, so I can go back in and do some different colors now. Again, I'm gonna just clear out my embossing powder tray here. And I decided I'm probably gonna do a little bit of silver next. And again, as I lay on the silver, I'm only doing it right there, and then again, I'm pouring it off in this direction. So again, my color is going to be changing here. This does not have any embossing powder on it yet. This does, silver and white. Okay. Again, I'm going to clean out my embossing tray and go on to my next color. And I'm going to go in with the, oh, I didn't want to do the moonstone. And I'm going to finish it off with a little bit of gold. All right. And you can cover the rest of your image here. Okay. Sometimes I flick my paper and that will kind of pull off any excess embossing powder that might be on there. All right, now we get to heat set it and we get to see the reveal. So again, as a reminder, we have the white, then we have silver, then we have moonstone, and then we have gold. Oh my gosh, already I am loving this. Moving my fingers out of the way so that they don't, this gets up to a pretty high temperature, so I really don't want to harm my fingers here and burn my fingernails off. And there we have it. Look how fun that is. Isn't that so cool? I love multicolor embossing. It's just such a neat technique. And again, it's totally waterproof, but I love how vibrant it is on the dark papers. So that is multicolor embossing for you. So that is your little intro to stamping, my dear friends. I want to just kind of educate you on the world of heat embossing, which is so much fun, and then the world of clear stamps. So then that way you can feel a little bit more successful in your art. And of course, using your clear stamps with your clear ink and then your embossing powders, there's so much you can do, and you can make so many fun cards. I just absolutely love that. So just know that as you're kind of exploring the world of stamping and heat embossing, there are lots of options. Feel free to stop by the shop, and I'm happy to demonstrate any of these ideas for you again. Have a fun day, guys. I'll see you later. Bye.